Hey there, guys. Earlier I did a perfect score 1 DPS cap on Yunalesca using Olive, and it was requested that I use the same concept to do a cap with Tyvis because he got some buffs from Season 4. That being said, he doesn't have his final Season 4 buffs yet. Those come in the next update, which give Tyvis a really big damage gain with his Chronicle weapon, etc. But we don't have that yet, so we're going to have to bring in a second DPS to help out Tyvis. So we're going to use Esther and Tyvis to solo cap this. That being said, I'm going to leave a party slot empty and still cap the fight. And you can use that empty party slot to add another damage dealer, a finisher, a better buffer, a better breaker, whatever you want. But this core 5 is going to be able to perfect score the Yunalesca fight. So Vaughn is going to be for 89% defense break, 160 fire in peril, and 160 human killer. Leftia is for 100 fire amp for Tyvis, 45 amp for Esther. Other than that, she's going to be doing LB buffs and She's going to be support chaining. Runda is for covering the preemptive as well as doing some mitigation buffs. He's also going to be using his Season 4 gear to synergy buff Tyvis, kind of like Fran buffs Balthier. Esther is our source of undead killer as well as LB field and a nice chainer. And then Tyvis is going to be the big capper with all the Season 4 power-ups. And again, that empty party slot, add whatever you want to help out. You know, another DPS, another breaker, whatever. Olive, Chizuru, all that stuff. Great additions for that last party slot. Okay, here's the ambush. We're going to evade cover it with Runda, and then we're passive provoking with Vaughn, because the provokes include a Dispel. Okay, so turn 1, Leftia is just going to use Mock Insighter, or I probably said that horribly wrong, whatever. That gives AR chain frames to the party. Now, Esther is going to triple Bolting Strike. Runda is going to triple Bolting Strike. And we're going to use that Mock Insighter skill on Vaughn as well as Tyvis. That's the wrong one. Right here. And that's going to give, we're going to chain all these together, the double boltings and the double ARs. The AR chain is single cast. Even if you're dual wielding, it's a single cast AR. So it's very easy to chain. So we're going to go ahead and chain these guys up. That'll give us the 100 count chain score as well as the weakness damage score, because we're not going to be chaining to 100 on the kill turn. Okay, so there's some counterattacks, some silence, some blind, whatever. We're going to deal with those later. And again, there's the 113 chain score to get that handled. Okay, now we're going to use Esther's LB. That's going to put up the LB damage field for later. Wait for that to finish. Alright, just for weakness damage, well actually, hold on a minute. We're going to use Leftia to dual cast. We're going to do Bar Warderer and Bar Thunderer. These are resist buffs because our Tyvis and Esther are not wearing full resistance gear. Runda on this turn can just do his LB for 80 mitigation, again for more resistance. I'm sorry, for more mitigation. And Vaughn can do, we can use him to just double hit the boss with Flaming Smash just for weakness damage. And then My Brother is gone, and Tyvis can just guard. At this point, we've done enough weakness damages to get full credit. Okay, some more counterattacks, you know, whatever. Okay, so this turn is a magic attack on Vaughn, and the magic attack is a 300% Thunder Imperil. Now, you could just load down your Provoker with a lot of resist gear and ignore the Imperil, but I don't want to do that, so we're just going to use Vaughn to Rage Beast Roar himself to dispel himself. Now, he is still using a combined total of 200 to Thunder and Water together. But again, he's mostly naked, just for the sake of showing you the basic way to do this. You can definitely go higher on resistance gear if you want. Anyway, Leftia is now going to Elemental Power Fire on Tyvis. That's the ramping fire imperil. You got to do that 2 turns before your burst. It's kind of like Sylvie's, where it gets better per turn, and then 2 turns from now, it'll be at max power. So you use it on turn 3, turn 5, it'll be at max power. Esther can just either BS or SR one time to fill LB gauge. Tyvis is going to guard because, as you see, Tyvis and Esther are not quite immune to the water and thunder attack, but that's going to be okay. Runda on this turn can do cover, and then we're going to do shell and protect just so we have more mitigation for the thunder attack. the Thunder and Water combined attack, because it does bypass cover. So here we go. Now it's going to deal relatively low down. We've got lots of mitigations up at this point. So it did less than 5k total. Yeah, it did 601,000. So we're well below the 5,000 allowed threshold. Okay, so we're going to now use Runda to Panacea. Oh, not that one. Panacea. That's going to cure the breaks and not the breaks, the blind and all that on the party. Leftia can use her SLB to amp fire for Esther and all that. Esther can use Energizing, Quantum Storm on Leftia, and then Calm before the storm. Vaughn. Now this turn, the boss is going to use an attack that bypasses cover. It's a physical attack. You could evade it as well, but we're going to use Mirage instead. So Vaughn will just use Mirage Plus, so we take no damage from this attack. Now, if you're using Tybus's STMR, go ahead and use it this turn. We're not using it because it's more damage for me to add more killers as opposed to more LB mod on him. So we're just skipping his own STMR. So here's the AoE physical that bypasses cover. Mega Absorb did 0 damage. There we go. Now, because my Vaughn is only EX1, we had to wait till turn 5 to do our damage. We're going to go ahead and use Vaughn just to use his SLB this turn. That's an 89 break, a big fire, imperil, and all that. Runda is going to triple cast his mod boost, all 3 of them on Tybus. His multicast was fixed, so it does work with Tybus now. Now we're going to go ahead and kill the boss. So we're going to use Tybus's SLB, Esther's LB, and then Leftia is going to use these chaining frames given by Esther. Now, hopefully, this damage caps the boss. We're not going to chain to 100 this turn. We did that on turn 1. So, with only these units, we do need a little bit of variance luck, but we should be overall fine here. Let's find out what the damage is. 10.7 or higher is a perfect score, and it's very easy to cap if you add another DPS. I just wanted to demonstrate that you don't need an extra DPS. You don't need it, technically speaking. So, 11.5. There we go. Overcapped by a decent chunk. And again, add another DPS and you'll do like 17 billion or something. Or if your gear is not quite as good, you'll still cap, but it won't maybe be as extreme of a cap. So here's the damage breakdown. As you can see, Tybus, with all the Season 4 stuff, does really good damage. Again, it is a multi-party slot bonus though, so it's kind of like Fran. You can't really count that as one party slot. Tybus is compressing the Runda slot into himself, and then the Leftia amp kind of also counts as a Tybus buff. But yeah, after the next Season 4 story update, Tybus gets his Chronicle weapon, and that makes him really good. It's an amazing, it gives him Omni Killer, it gives him Chain Cap up, it gives him, I think, 1200 flat attack power. It's a really big upgrade, and Tybus is going to love that, but it's not here yet. Anyway, there's a perfect score using only 5 units and 2 DPS, and then I'll show you the gear real quick. So we've got Vaughn, who is again our 160 breaker, 89 defense break, and 160 imperil, 89 defense break, and he also does human killer on his his SLB. And mine's only EX1, so we had to go till turn 5. So 89 break, 160 human, etc. And you could have actually had Vaughn geared for damage and weaved his. As long as you click him first, you can weave his SLB into the chain, and it'll be capped, and it'll deal like a little bit of damage, not much. It's a modifier 250. I think he actually has a mod boost for it. In any case, it's not going to be a ton of damage, but you could have Vaughn do some extra damage if you wanted to. Anyway, he was passive provoke with Rage Beast Roar and a combined 200 to Thunder and Water combined. So there you go. Obviously most of the slots are naked. You can definitely gear him higher if you want to. Runda is our evasion, not provoking. Now we need Runda's head burst. There's 2 versions of Runda's head. There's burst and there's assault. I think by default it comes in the assault version. You've got to go to the crafting menu and convert it to the burst version. The burst version is for Tybus's SLB. The assault version is for his normal limit break, which is just not really worth using. You really always want the burst helmet. But anyway, this gives the mod boost for Tybus, and as you can see here, they power it up by 70, 70, and 90, and these all stack, and it only works on Tybus's SLB, but all three of them stack together, and he does need a full LB gauge to cast that. So don't make the mistake of like using his SLB on turn 3 for the mitigation, and then all of a sudden not having his LB filled by turn 5. So keep his LB ready to go for that. Other than that, Riku's pouch so he can cure the blinds and all that, or just gear for blind immunity. Either one works. Other than that, passive provoke, not provoke. He's evading, full evasion, and a little bit of thunder and water resist, so that we resist the turn 3 attack. Leftia, jet black silk ribbons. I talked about that before. That gives her the 100% fire amplify. Other than that, a little bit of lightning and water resist, and then I gave her a dual cast with Bar Thundara and Bar Watera. These are for Tyvis and Esther, because neither one of those are wearing full immunity. And now, of course, you could give her like an Esper with the Bar Thundaga resistance, or even higher, but, we didn't really need it. Anyway, there we go. And then her SLB is a 300 LB damage buff, a 300 stat buff, and then a Fire Amplify and Fire Imbue. Now, we did the 100 Amplify on Tyvis, but Esther only got a 45%. Then Esther, in the base form, is using her LB gear, so a little bit of water and thunder resist, not much, and this is the reason she took some damage on turn 3, but, we didn't take that much damage, it's fine. So LB damage versus humans and Reapers. Here's the gear we're using. Here's the setup. The gear isn't too excessive. We're using Tyvis's card. Obviously, things like, Wilk's card and all that are better, but I tried to keep the gear a little bit lower than, like, the best absolute possible you could do. But it is still an EX3 130 Esther, that being said. And then the gear is 275 LB. Maxed Human and Maxed Reaper. And again, like, I could have used, like, Knight to Grand Shout's card, her own card, Wilk's card, stuff like that, and gotten more LB damage, but this was good enough. And here's Tyvis. Now, Tyvis is using Titus's STMR. This is obviously a dramatic damage increase for all units it applies to. It does apply to Tyvis. It does not apply to Esther, so keep that in mind. But again, this is a 100x modifier for Tyvis. So it's a really big deal, but if you don't have this, and you are adding another DPS unit, you don't need it. But, for the 5-man team, you kind of need all the bonuses possible. But if you're using a 6-man team, if you don't have this, not a problem. You can give him his what's it called? His heavy chest piece. It's got a weird name. You can give him Sig Brenjanja, or whatever the hell. It gives LB damage, and it gives Tyvis 500 attack power. But that being said, if you do own Titus's STMR, it is more damage, even though you lose 500 attack power. Anyway, here's the gear we did. His own cloak, chain cap up, some killers, LB damage versus humans and undead. We did steal Esther's card for this one. And we've got maxed LB damage, maxed human, and 250 Reaper. So, okay. There it was. I'll post a turn chart in the comments if you really want to use this clear. Hopefully it's helpful. There it is. And again, if you're coming up short, add another damage dealer, and you should be fine if you've got a relatively similar party. Okay, see you in a bit.